The new short shows Xal'atath converting the Nerubians. Not really a big deal, just cool little artwork to hype up the expansion, but there is so much more in this video when you really examine it in detail. Xal'atath didn't come to Kazlagar to get an army. She is not trying to fight us. She is looking to complete the prophecy from Dragonflight that, by the way, turned out completely right, and only 2 lines are yet to happen. You can see the 5th old god in the video, and Xal'atath herself teleports right through the void crystal in the mural itself. Nerubians are either building a tentacle from the old god remains to create a new body for Xal'atath or the void awakened Azeroth, or they're extracting blood from the defeated 5th old god to awaken Azeroth as a void monster, which, by the way, is going to happen as we are going into midnight. This is going to be the biggest event in all of WoW history, so what is Xal'atath really doing? If you want to get Dragonflight or anything else Warcraft related, Gamigo has some excellent deals that you can check out with my link below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing deals at Gamigo. So you must have seen the Threads of Destiny by now, the new 2D short that is introducing the War Within. It will be out in just a bit more than 2 weeks now, and you saw how the princess betrayed the queen and joined Xal'atath and her forces. Now, on first glance, you might not really think this is that big of a deal. It didn't really reveal anything, and this is yet another old god affiliated army. It's literally all we've been fighting, some empowered faction that ultimately gets destroyed by the players, but this now is actually different. Xal'atath didn't come here to gather an army to fight us. This is not some big threat. She came to the Nerubians for a completely different reason. You can actually notice this huge contrast where the old god faceless ones offer them an alliance, and not really offer them, more like demand alliance, and Xal'atath does something completely different. I've seen some people being confused with who this faceless one is and whether this is happening in the ancient Black Empire, but you need to keep in mind, when the Black Empire was around, Nerubians weren't really a thing, they were all the Akir. This split only happened later. This faceless gigantic figure is happening sometime around BFA, when N'Zoth was coming around, and he essentially outright demands that they serve their masters. This shows that the old gods only really view Nerubians as minions. The Queen obviously kills him, which is an act of hostility, but N'Zoth couldn't exactly get revenge for this. However, what N'Zoth demanded was a Nerubian army that would fight us to re-establish the Black Empire during BFA. Now, let's look at Xal'atath. She didn't come to demand their forces for some upcoming struggle. She came in, was like, I know you guys have been struggling for a while now, you're essentially falling into oblivion, so I can make you great again. What you can notice is that she doesn't call them to join their former masters, but instead, she speaks of the old god blood. Interesting enough, she doesn't even say what she wants for herself, but she says that she can make them powerful with the blood of the old gods, and the queen says that the price is too great. Now, the princess obviously doesn't take kindly to this. She betrays her mother and accepts the pact. Now, this kinda leaves us with a mystery on what the pact is, and there is definitely still some mystery on what the destiny for the Nerubians is that they're talking about. However, we do of course have information from the War Within beta, we have artwork from the collector's edition book, we have some cinematic shots as well as some dialogues that can make sense of what is really going on here. Essentially, it all boils down to the prophecy that was established back in Dragonflight, the so-called Song of the Deaths. Now, I know, Blizzard is known to make these vague prophecies all the time with nothing particular in mind, but I think with this one, they knew what they were fighting because this expansion has been in the works for years, which is why essentially everything but the last 2 lines has already happened, and seeing that we know midnight is happening, the last 2 will likely happen soon as well. Now, I don't want to bore you with the whole read, this is already old news, so let's just look at the key parts. This is a Naga document saying that Queen Azshara is within the Void Realm. She says that the Harbinger is gathering the children of the First Flesh to reclaim what was lost. This is what you can see in the newest short that Blizzard released. Harbinger speaks of a primal power. This is Heredikron, and they bent his rage for the Titans to their will. They talk about a hunger lost to the ages being reclaimed. This is the hunger of Galakrond from 10.1.5. The Dark Heart left broken was taken. This is the artifact from Deathwing's laboratory on the Dragon Isles. So, really, we only got 2 lines that are yet to happen. The Harbinger is supposed to complete the awakening of Azeroth, and the Queen, aka Azshara, is going to return to reign over the sea, sky, and earth. Now, this brings us to the Nerubians, and how did they come into this whole picture? Why did Xal'atath come to Kazlagar out of all the places on Azeroth? Azeroth. So I want to refer to two things in particular here, and this is one obvious hint, which isn't really a hint at all. It is in fact just the thing they're stating outright everywhere, and that is the blood of the old gods, which is of course what really drew her to this place. However, there are also two hints for the cinematic of this gigantic tentacle in the Nerubian laboratory that you can also see in the collector's edition book in much more detail. I've got a previous video covering this in much more detail as well, but there are a few theories currently going around on what is actually happening. One is that the tentacle seems stitched together and it's literally the shape of Xal'atad's dagger, that it could be a new body that they're building for Xal'atad to complete the awakening of Azeroth, aka her final boss form of this expansion. Remember, Xal'atad is something much more sinister than what she looks like. The reason she's a void elf is because this is just a random NPC body she took during that questline, but I feel like her true form is something akin to that tentacle, something kinda disgusting. Now, another theory is that the tentacle is a part of the new body they're building for Azeroth once she awakens, stitching up all the old god parts in their blood in order to have a vessel for this void monstrosity that Azeroth is supposed to become. However, another interesting possibility is that this tentacle is not actually being built at all, but instead, this is a remnant of the 5th old god that was in Khazakar, and this is the source of the old god blood they're harvesting it from. The blood itself is the real power, and this combined with the essence of Galakrond and the Dark Heart might be what is supposed to complete the awakening of Azeroth to wrap up that prophecy. I really don't want to repeat myself for the millionth time on this. I've got so many videos on that 5th old god, but it's really as good as confirmed that there is another unknown old god on Azeroth, as they had just stated this fact once again in the newly released Chronicle book. The speculation right now is that this 5th old god was present right where Khazakar is, and that his corpse is somewhere in the bottom layer, and this is where the Nerubians are getting all their pots and the blood from. This also brings us to the mural. I've discussed this a million times as well, but did you notice that Blizzard is purposefully hinting at that mural in the new video? I want to mention two key things here, what the mural is and where Xal'atad is teleporting from. First of all, I previously talked about how we don't know what the mural is, whether this is a picture from the past or a vision of their new future with Xal'atad, so that figure is supposedly something that is going to come later, but this video essentially confirmed what it is. It's obviously from the time of the Black Empire, as it was present before the Nerubians joined Xal'atad. This figure is very likely the 5th old god. The mural shows Nerubians entering the mount, which might mean they were sacrificed, and there is the crystal, which is almost certainly Beledar, but the void version. Did you notice that Xal'atad teleported through the crystal in the mural? I'm almost certain this is a huge hint for what is going to happen later on. Additionally, based on the old god lore that we know and the maps we had previously seen, the old gods usually had their own little kingdoms within the Black Empire, so they would be in the middle of some place and their servants would be based around them. If this 5th old god was in Khazakar, it would mean that originally the Nerubians were very close servants of this guy, and if we can take anything from the mural and the fact that they didn't want anything to do with the void for the longest time, you can kinda extrapolate that they didn't exactly treat the Nerubians well. Now, let's go back to the prophecy, the Harbinger completing the awakening. I'm almost certain this will actually happen, as we know Midnight is the next expansion where the Void actually invades us. Lisa Chronicle book kinda retcons some of the old lore that previously stated Azeroth is a Titan and the Void wants to convert it into a Void Titan. The new lore said that the Void wants to convert it into a Void monster, essentially. So is it really a mystery on what Xal'atad's plan is? I mean, we know she serves Dimensius the All-Devouring and she wants to convert Azeroth, aka awaken Azeroth, as a Void being. So based on all this, let's kinda explain what is actually going on. The original destiny of the Nerubians is probably the destiny of the Void, and that is to complete the awakening, which equals conquering the planet. Once the planet is fully in the Void realm, I mean, can anyone really stop the Nerubians? Like, who would even want to stop the Nerubians? Xal'atad has been gathering a few parts here and there for this awakening, but it looks like the biggest source of power she needs to complete this ritual is right in Khazakar, which is why she came to the Nerubians. As I said, she doesn't really care for the army. She's not trying to fight or invade us. She just wants to complete the ritual. The army might distract us here and there, but that was just a way to satisfy the Nerubians so that they can help her in the true plan. Now we will see what this tentacle really is, whether they're building it or extracting things from it, but it really looks like something crazy is actually going to happen in this expansion. If she really completes the awakening, this event at the end of War Within is literally going to be the biggest thing that ever hit Azeroth in all its history. I mean, the Sundering is not going to be anything similar in comparison. Thank you for watching. Check out Troll returning as the war chief in the upcoming faction conflict by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient training on the second channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.